Hi everybody. I made this video today to discuss different types of dreadlock maintenance methods and specifically what you can expect from switching from one maintenance method over to my maintenance method. But first I want you to understand all of them so that you can have a broad education on them. This video would also be good just for people in general to learn the different types of maintenance methods and what they can expect when they're looking around in their area for locticians and the questions that they can ask and the imagery that they can look for in their portfolios to help you make better decisions. So first, let's talk about the reasons that you may have wanted to switch over to my method, which is the Nature's Crown or soft crochet internal maintenance method. Number one, maybe you have seen pictures of what my dreadlocks look like online, and you can see that upwards of 10 and up years old dreadlocks done by me with my method or by people I have trained. They are long, thick, and consistent looking. They stay very healthy, and the density is consistent from root to end. That is because of our method. Number two, you may like the way the roots look fuller and thicker, and the way that the thickness goes from root to end consistently. They do not look tight at the root. You do not see the grid on our maintenance method, unless of course somebody has super fine hair, in which case sometimes you'll see the grid, but not because of the method. The third reason that somebody might be switching over to my method would be that you are unhappy with the current method you've been getting, or maybe what's being done to you is not working. Maybe your loctician has moved away or stopped doing hair and you just need to try something new. Having different options with every product or every service out there is always a good thing. If you go to get a massage, you can get Thai massage, Swedish massage, deep tissue, etc. When you buy toothpaste, there's several options, right? We should all have options, and ours is just one of many. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about different types of methods. Dreadlocks that are formed on their own without any type of manipulation, without any separation, and without any maintenance is called freeform. I list this in the types of maintenances just so that you know that this is a type of way that dreadlocks are created, but it is not maintained. If somebody develops a lot of discomfort due to the way their hair freeformed, most commonly found in people with smoother texture, where their lock formed from the ends up, and you do not have a comfortable grid, that is where I often see freeform clients come in to have maintenance done and have the grid adjusted on their head for more comfort. The second type of maintenance and creation is going to be twisting. On certain textures of hair, you can twist the hair very easily. In the level 4 textures, the coily and kinky, you can twist that hair and it will lock upon itself. And that's all you have to do. When you get into a softer texture, then twisting is not always going to be effective. And after, trying to get this done by your loctician, if you're not seeing results, I have seen people come over to my method to help keep the hair locked in place. Third is going to be intense backcombing, and that is where the hair is backcombed to a very high density. Usually they go from the hair down to the middle of their back all the way up to their chin, and they are very thick and dense. And when the hair starts to grow out, it tends to look thinner next to that hair because you've just taken the hair, doubled it basically in thickness. And so when the hair grows out, it's deceiving because this is the actual thickness of the hair. So oftentimes I will have people come to me wanting to switch over to a softer method because they don't like how thick and hard that method creates. Number 4, we have interlocking. Interlocking is where you split the hair at the root and you pull the dreadlock through. This is done oftentimes when people don't know what else to do with a particular texture that won't lock up simply by twisting. When people come to me with interlocked hair and they want to switch over to my method, there are some issues that come up in that process of adjusting from one method to the next. If people do the opposite, if they go from their regular method of locking up and they switch over to visit someone and get interlocking done, we see things like their dreadlocks breaking off afterwards, or lots of hair coming out at the scalp, or just a weak spot on their hair many years down the road, due to the nature of how it's done and what it does to the hair. The last method is going to be the caging or external crochet method. This is what you will most commonly see on the internet these days. It has become the most marketed style of creating and maintaining dreadlocks, and also faux locks. So this is where the hair is woven on the outside of the dreadlock and on the outside of the new growth, and it creates a, at first you see a very consistent dreadlock in the beginning. It's usually not super flexible, skinny looking, and you'll see the grid at the root showing. This is the most common, and they do refer to it often as crochet, which I believe is sort of new terminology to be used for this method, which can be confusing for a lot of people. My method I would call the soft crochet method, and it is internal rather than external. And I do use different tools than people use when they're doing all of these other methods. The difference between internal and external, it's just like the human body. If you want something to look good, you work on the external aspects of it. If you want something to be healthy, you work on the inside. So that's the thinking that I approach dreadlocks with. Everything is based on the internal structure of the dreadlock, which is why you see consistent density from root to end and shape on my dreadlocks, and why they tend to last so long without breaking off. My method is not about the aesthetic, although that happens to be the product that you receive over the long term is a perfect aesthetic. But the purpose of it is for health and longevity and structural integrity, as I always say. So when you go to any maintenance method one time, let's say you jump around and you go get interlocked one time, that one visit with interlocking can have disastrous results forever because it is so permanent. If you come in and you get my method done one time, then we need to talk about what your expectations are, what your reason for switching over to me is, and how long is your outgrowth. Those three things are going to determine what you feel when you're done with this visit with me. If you have a normal amount of new growth on your root, which hair grows a 1/2 inch every month, which is about that much, okay? 1/2 inch every month. If it's been a couple of months since your visit, maybe you're working with an average of like 1 inch of new growth every, couple of months. And if you get maintenance done with me, that new growth is going to shrink up and be fatter. And so then you're going to have a fatter root, and you're going to have a softer, fluffier root, and any loose hairs that are on the outside of the dreadlock are going to be pulled in. There's not going to be any wrapping at the root or anything that makes that dreadlock look more tight. Now, dependent on how much outgrowth you had and how tight your transition area of your dreadlock was, that's going to dictate whether or not those new hairs are going to stay inside the dreadlock. If you have 2 to 4 inches of outgrowth, and it's been a really long time since you had maintenance done by anybody, and maybe you had a method that was really tight before and we had to open it up and restructure all of this new growth and put some texture on it, that is a very long area of soft matting. Let's say it's like prep for matting. It's just soft, tangled hair. And when you pull the loose hairs outside of the dreadlock into this area, it's going to take a while for that new growth that has been texturized to close in on those loose hairs. If you move around when you sleep and you don't wear a sleep cap, If you put your hair up, take it down. If you sweat a lot, if you wash your hair often, these are all things that are going to make those loose hairs potentially slide right back out before that's been closed in on it. Remember, this area right here has to be a certain tightness in order to contain the new hairs that we've put inside. That hair is going to depend on how long was the loose hair, right? Was it new growth because you had breakage and they happen to be very short and they only go in but so far to the dreadlock and they don't even enter your transition area? Is it a long piece and it went into the transition area and it stayed in? Is the transition area so far away from the scalp that there's no way that they could stay in the meantime? There's so many contributing factors. And what that means is that you have to give this method a couple of visits for this new area that we've created, which is essentially the same thing as a new dreadlock, because this area used to be smooth textured hair and it has only been locking up for but so long, right? It's just like a baby dreadlock. So if we're expecting it to mature immediately, that is a false expectation. There isn't any hair wrapped around it to force it to stay together, right? We are allowing nature to do this. We are creating a situation where nature can do what it wants to do, which is why you get such a consistent dreadlock in the end, because nature has been involved, not because we did any forcing. So because of that, after a few visits, after the hair has grown with this new method, and after that hair that has been maintained and grown and then matured, we finally will be able to see the real results of what switching over to my method does. But that requires some patience on your part. And so it's pretty seldom, but there are some times when people come in, they switch over to our method, and then they'll say, I don't feel like anything was done to my hair. And well, if you didn't have a big restoration project done, and if I just did a standard maintenance on you after only a couple months of new growth, you're not going to see a huge difference. It's just going to be soft and, tangly at the root, and it's going to lock up as it does. And you're still going to have loose hairs. Loose hairs are always going to be an issue. That's the thing. No matter what hair texture you have, from hair texture 1 to hair texture 4, there are loose hairs at the root. If you have straight hair, your loose hairs are going to look long and straight. If you have wavy hair, you're going to have loose wavy hair at your root. If you have curly hair, you're going to have a halo of kind of a frizzy look. If you have coily or kinky your hair, you're going to have a fro that is close to your root that looks very dense and isn't quite as obvious because there's hair not blowing in the breeze everywhere. So everyone's always going to have loose hairs at the root. When you have dreadlocks, that's what you're going to have. So what you need to decide is, how obsessive are you about those loose hairs? Do you need your hair to look super duper tight all the time? In which case, maybe interlocking or caging is right for you. Do you want your hair to look soft and allow it to have time to form on its own with a little bit of gentle guidance and end up with a head full of really consistent, beautiful dreadlocks that are very happy and very healthy? Then go to my method, but be patient, because my method requires a little bit of patience because I fall somewhere in between the freeform and the force. It is allowing the hair to do what it wants to do naturally, but it is being guided by a person into what we consider a comfortable sectioning and a comfortable amount of tension at the root. It's extremely intentional. Tension with intention. That's what it is. We're very specific about every hair on the head and where we place it. Whatever method you choose, be sure to be consistent about it. If you're consistent with your method, if you're consistent with how often you go to do it, you won't have gapping in your density. It'll be consistent. And your dreadlocks will look consistent. Even if they look bumpy, they will be consistently bumpy. That makes sense. If you have any other questions, let me know.